All right, here we are back again. We get the week 8 review. This week's a little more separation at the top. Devon decided to go to 8-0, and Matty Ice, the only one who could keep pace, and he decided not to stick with two losses. So Devon now has a 3-game lead on second place. So I don't know if he started spending the money for first overall in the regular season, but he might be able to pencil that in. Um, right now at 8-0, he's only 3 wins away from setting a new record in the regular season. So let's start it right away with Devon's matchup. So last week I talked about NFL.com when Yip didn't have his lineup set. It was saying Devon was going to win by 50, and I said, I don't think he'll win by 50, and I was right. Devon won by 36 points. So not even close to 50. Still crushed him. I do have a little bit of crow to eat for Yip's lineup. I did make a snide comment about Raheem Mostert being in a starting lineup, and then he took him out. I said he wasn't going to do anything. He got like 13 points. So that sucks for me. But I got the win because Devon was my pick. So in this matchup, we looked at this is the Bibbs game of the week, so we looked at all the lineups, and I said Devon would get the advantage quarterback, and he did. This was Devon's lowest scoring game of the year, but Russell Wilson still outscored Kirk Cousins, who had a great football day and a terrible fantasy day. So Russell had 19 to Kirk's 11. Talked about running backs, thought each one of them would roll at least one out. Devon only rolled one. Yip rolled two, but Kenyon Drake didn't make the trip, so that was a big fat zero. So with Chubb against Fournette, and I said in that matchup I liked Fournette's matchup, and Chubb did really well against the Patriots. He's been the only one who did really well against the Patriots, but couldn't hold on to the ball, so he fumbled the ball twice, and that hit him. So Fournette scored him there. I said Devon would make his money in the wide receivers, and he did. DJ Nick Hopkins got 11 points. DJ Chark again strong, 14 points for him. And when you look at it versus the other side, you got Tyrell Williams came back and picked up right where he left off for Yip. He's got 15 points, but it just wasn't enough. Dorsett at 4, and MVS after 130 yards and a touchdown decided to put up 4 yards. So can't win many games doing that. Yip with his 60-some points wasn't putting up a fight. I said tight end would be a wash. Sure enough, garbage tight ends. Kyle Rudolph, who got a touchdown last week, did nothing this week. And Higbee, probably the only tight end Gerald ever outscored. So that sucks. Kickers. Devon actually won that one. I thought Lutz would have the advantage over Zane Gonzalez, but Zane decided to put up double digits versus Lutz's only 7. But they don't need him to win games in New Orleans. But in the defensive matchup, Devon took that down. Shaq Barrett did come back and came to life for Devon and got 8 points. So he scored a nice 25 with his defensive players. I feel like anytime you get over 20, I think Rich told me this a couple years ago, anytime you get over 20 for your defense, you're doing pretty well. Yip, on the other hand, got 12. Like I said, the guy from Green Bay, still don't know his name. He got 3 tackles. Anthony Barr, nothing, 4 points. And Aaron Donald thought he would wreck Cincinnati and didn't do much. But Daniil Hunter in that Thursday night game almost outscored Kirk Cousins, so that was a really good start for Devon. So overall for the Bibbs game of the week, I'd say I had it pretty much right on. But yeah. So let's go to the important matchup of the week, which was, flipping back and forth on a tablet, trying to get games up to look at the stats. But it was me against Deke. So I said I'd pick me. I'd never pick Deke. And frankly, I'm ashamed of Deke in this matchup. He benched Tom Brady. So 15 years ago, he named his kid after Tom Brady. And they benched him for Jimmy G, the guy that Tom Brady ran out of town because he couldn't handle it. So he was doomed right from the start. So as soon as he benched Tom Brady, the football gods said, "What are you doing?" And I think it's the beginning of the end for those two. I think Brady and Derek Bulver are headed for a breakup. But we'll see. But I did make that bold prediction early. I'm sticking to it. So the key players in this game, Deshaun Watson. It was really funny. The quarterback matchup was the one I was watching. And the first 15 minutes, Jimmy G had 13 points. And it was like, what is happening here? He finished the game with 16. Deshaun Watson finished the game with 33. So Watson takes a while to get going, but once he gets going, he doesn't look back. Deke had a couple guys do really well. He had Saquon Barkley doing Saquon things, and Miles Sanders, who had his breakout game for Philly, which was really great for real life. But for fantasy, I wasn't loving it. For me, I had the real big winners for me were Royce Freeman 2 weeks in a row. Did really well for me. Chris Carson got me 15. But the biggest difference was between kicker and defense. Deke's defense got him 18 points, and mine got me over 30. So big difference there. So overall, I picked me. That's 2-0 to start the week. So that was really good. Next game was another game where a Bulliver let me down. This time it was Drew. Picked Drew to beat Danny Wynot, even though he wasn't starting a quarterback. And then later in the week, he still wasn't starting a quarterback because Drew Brees came back. So he had to shift to Ryan Tannehill. But Tannehill did really well. He had 24 points. So that's a really good day for a quarterback you picked up one day before the game was supposed to start. The problem for Drew was that was pretty much it. Tannehill and Julio Jones got 40% of his points. So everybody else kind of stunk. Made a big trade with Hahn, getting Lev Bell and Zach Ertz on his team, and they combined for 5 points. It probably wasn't what he was thinking when he made that trade. Allen Robinson, who had been having some great weeks, did nothing because Mitch Trubisky sucks really, really bad. Sony Michel, Sutton, they did okay, but they didn't score. So, like the start of my year, if you don't score touchdowns, you don't win fantasy games. Danny Wynot had the opposite. He had basically all of the Pittsburgh Steelers other than Juju, and they all did really well for him. Drew Brees came back, scored 30 points, so that was a really good start. James Conner got him 21. I think he was 5 points behind going into Monday night, and Conner got him 21, and Deontay Johnson got like 15, and the kicker got, how many did the kicker get? 9. Could have been 14, but he missed a 55-yarder. But Stephon Diggs, again, double digits. Had a fumble in this game, but caught a bunch of passes for a bunch of yards. So overall, really good matchup for Danny Wynot versus Drew. And the question is, Danny was, bottom of the barrel. He was 1-6, but people with 6 losses have made the playoffs all the time. So the question is, with Drew Brees back, can Danny run the table and stay in it? Nothing's impossible. I was 0-3 at one point in time, but so the reason I said Drew let me down is because I picked him to win. What the hell, Drew? Anyway, Danny kicked his butt, so it was close for a little bit, but the Pittsburgh Steelers put it away against Miami. So then you had the bad beat of the week, but the great week for Dan Evans. So you had Graham and Dan, a rematch of the final game of the regular season, which determined who won the regular season. Rematch of the finals. So Graham won those last year. And then in this game, it looked close all day. And I can't remember how many points. Dan needed like 20 points from Devon Bush and Juju to win the matchup, and Juju was the guy in for Dan in this one. Juju ended up with 17 on Monday night. The big thing for Dan was all of a sudden, Juju won the matchup, but David Montgomery's the only reason he was in it. So Montgomery, who got 7 touches the week before, ended up with 27 touches and 20 some points. So really good day there. DK Metcalf got 13 yards and 2 touchdowns. So as long as you're a big dude, you can have good fantasy days. For Graham, it's not like he did bad. I mean, the quarterback position struggled for both guys. 11 points, both guys. That's not good. But Christian McCaffrey, back doing Christian McCaffrey things, going against San Francisco, one of the toughest defenses in the league, and McCaffrey goes off. 23 points. And usually you talk about 23 points, like, man, he might have been fantasy MVP of the week. Not this week. Mike Thomas. Now Drew Brees is back. The question is, who's got better keepers, Devon or Graham? Right? CMC, Michael Thomas. I had this conversation with Han. CMC and Michael Thomas, and we'll say Matt Ryan. Or Evan Ingram. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have Nick Hopkins, Zeke, and Russell Wilson? So it's a toss-up. They're all great. The wild card in this game for Graham was Dan Bailey. Dan Bailey had 15 points at kicker. It's nice when you start Thursday night outscoring your projections. So Marlon Mack, another 15 points. So Graham had players that did well, but he had 2 pretty big busts in his lineup. He had we talked about Corey Davis being a key. Corey Davis had 9 yards. So that's the Corey Davis we all know and love. Look like you got all the potential in the world and then suck huge. But Larry Fitzgerald, what's going on with Larry Fitzgerald? Started off the year, Cardinals were throwing the ball to him a lot, and now not so much. So does he stay in Graham's lineup? Plays San Francisco Thursday night, so I guess we'll see in a couple of days. So picked Graham to win that one. I wasn't 100% sure, but then Danny Wynot sent me a text message, said, yep, I picked Graham. So lost that one. So Dan Evans. So that puts Deke, Drew, Dan Evans, and Graham all at 4-4. So it's getting clogged up. Nobody's really out of it yet. It's getting clogged up at the bottom of the playoff pool. Even second place has 3 losses. So between second and 8th place, there's 1 game. So, and then there's Devon. What a dick. So my biggest win of the week for me is, unless there's a stack correction, was Calder. I picked an upset. Not many people would have faith in you, Jason Calder. Not many. But I do. I have big time faith in you. Drafted a good team. Had 2 of the fantasy MVPs on his roster. So if it wasn't for Rich going off, Calder would have been the highest scoring team of the week. But Matty Ice versus Calder, what a matchup. I don't want to call it a bad beat because none of them played Monday night, but less than 2 points. That was the big difference. So, Keys, Matty Stafford. So Calder put Matty Stafford in over his beloved Josh Allen. Old Jason Calder wouldn't have done that. He'd have played 7 Bills in this matchup. But he didn't. He played Matt Stafford, who had 30 points. The other side of the coin, Aaron Rodgers. He's back. 33 points for Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. He's back in the fantasy relevance. We'll just go down through this matchup. Look at the running backs. Latavius Murray, 27 points in relief for Alvin Kamara versus Aaron Jones, 35 points. So there's your fantasy MVP of the week. That second half of that Sunday night game where Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones just went gangbusters. Was really cool. Looked like Aaron Jones wasn't going to come back. Looked like Calder was going to take the L, and then Jones comes back and does great things. Not to be too far outdone, Cooper Kupp caught 7 passes for 8 million yards, scored 31 points over in London. Austin Hooper for Matty Ice, still great, 13 points this week. Catching the ball from Matt Schaub. You got Edelman, 20 points, catching the ball from Tom Terrific. Lots of great point getters in this one. The biggest difference in this one was Tyreek Hill was kind of kept in check. He only had 8 points. But when it all boils down to it, Calder pulled one out, even though he played a tight end who was inactive. So hit the optimize button. Jason Witten's on a bye, so Chris Herndon gets put into the lineup, and he's inactive, so you got to hit that waiver wire. But didn't need to, because he won. So I hedged my bets on the next game. I had Han versus Rich. So I picked Han because it's fun to pick Han, because I jinx Han. I'm magic. And then for science, I picked Rich, and the reverse jinx didn't work. So what happened was, by picking Rich, Han's team should have had a good day, and they did. He had 112 points. That's a great day. Should have won matchup, but Rich decided to put up 160. So that's the second person who's put 160 on Han this year. Graham did it in week 1. And the funny thing about Rich's 160 is he only got 10 from Baker Mayfield. I wouldn't personally have paid, or 13. Sorry, you wouldn't have played Baker if it were me, just for the simple fact that he was going against New England. But go with your keepers, go with your guys. Goff outscored him pretty good, doubled him. Jason had Mike Evans. Mike Evans got 31 points over. So Mike Evans versus Cooper Kupp over in London, they couldn't be stopped, either one of them. So it looks like it should be fairly close, but Han lost by 50 because Dalvin Cook, 23, Kenny Golladay, 22, Travis Kelce, 12, Carlos Hyde, 9, Tevin Coleman, probably your MVP of the week. I used Aaron Jones because Rich won by so much, but Tevin Coleman, 13 touches, 4 touchdowns, 36 fantasy points. Wow, what a day. Took all Breida's touchdowns. What a dick. Anyway, so then you go past him. Joe Mixon showed up. Joe Mixon, 13.7 points. Butker, not perfect. 6 points. It's fine. Then you look at Rich's defense. So my defense scored 30 points, and Rich's scored 27-ish. So that's top to bottom, Rich's lineup was just solid, and this is why back a few weeks ago I said he's one of the elite. So right now he's tied for second place, but could take anybody out because Rich puts up these gigantic scores because he's got all these running backs that score touchdowns. So great week for Rich. Since I picked him last, I'm taking the W because it's my video and it's my picks, and I like winning more than losing. So that's it. Fantasy MVPs, usually you'd look at the guys with 20 points and say, wow, what great days. There were 4 guys with over 30 points. Two of them on Calder's team, one of them on Han's team, and one of them on Rich's team. Like, just a really impressive week. So with that, I was 24-18 going in. I'm up to 28-20. Rebound after my sick week of 2-4 or whatever the heck I was. I guess if we're going to take anything from this week 8, I'll take the fact that Deke benched Tom Brady. It wouldn't have mattered. I whipped him. But it's the principle. He loves Tom. He put Tom on his bench. It's kind of a traitor. So take that, Derek. Anyway, week 9 preview coming up. I don't know who he plays, but Calder will be the game of the week, so we can look at his team overall. And yeah, should be fun. Devon's chasing history. He's not far off. If he had some big weeks, he's not far off the point record either. Han set the point record back in 2014, I think it was 2015. Han set the point record back then, and that's the same year I set the win record for the regular season at 10-3. I don't want to jinx him, but Danny Wynot was asking about the win record last year when he was sitting there at 8-2, and he lost every game from there on out. So if I were you, Devon, I wouldn't mention it. But so that's it for week 8 review. Let's move on. It's waiver night, so hopefully you guys got your waiver claims in. Everybody get their Jalen Samuels lined up, and we'll go from there. So just remember, if women don't find you handsome, there's always fantasy.